Chapter 16. Theo found a bag of pretzels and 2 diet drinks in the small kitchen where the Boone and Boone firm waged quiet battles over food. The rules were simple. If you brought food that was not to be shared, then put your initials on it and hope for the best. Otherwise, everything was fair game. Reality, though, was more complicated. The borrowing of food was from someone's private stash was commonplace and not entirely frowned upon. Courtesy demanded that if food is borrowed, it should be replaced as soon as possible. This led to all sorts of pranks. Mr. Boone referred to the kitchen as a minefield and refused to go near it. Theo suspected the pretzels and that the drinks belonged to Dorothy, a secretary who was eternally trying to lose weight. He made a mental note to replenish her supply. Chase had suggested they go to the high school at 2 p.m. to watch Strattonburg play its first basketball game of the season, and Theo agreed. He was tired of the internet and considered their work useless, but he had one last idea. Since the parties were at state late last night, let's go through each fraternity there, do a random check of several Facebook pages, and look at photos. You said there were 10 parties, right? Chase was crunching on a thick pretzel. Yes, with 4 giving the name of the band. That leaves 6 parties with unknown bands. And what exactly are we looking for? Anything that might identify plunder. Electric lights, a banner, the band's name on the bass drum, anything. So what if we find out that the band played at a frat party last night at NC State? Does that mean they're playing tonight at UNC? Maybe. Look, Chase, we're just guessing here, all right? We're throwing darts in the dark. You got that right. You have a better idea? Not at the moment. Theo sent Chase the links to 3 fraternities. Sigma Nu has 80 members, Chase said. How many? Let's do 5 from each fraternity. Pick them at random. Of course, you'll have to use pages with open profiles and no security. I know. Theo went to the page of a Chi Psi member named Buddy Ziles, a sophomore from Atlanta. Buddy had a lot of friends and hundreds of photos, but nothing from a party the night before. Theo plowed ahead, as did Chase, with little being said. Both boys were soon bored by the endless shots of groups of students posing, yelling, dancing, always with a beer in hand. Chase pricked up and said, I got some shots from last night, a party with a band. He went through photos slowly and then said nothing. 100 photos later, Theo stopped cold, blinked twice, and zoomed in. He was on the unsecured Facebook page of Alpha Nu brother named Vince Snyder, a sophomore from D.C. who had posted a dozen photos from the night's dance. Chase, come here, Theo said, as if he were watching a ghost. Chase scurried around behind Theo and leaned in. Theo pointed to the screen. The photo was a typical party shot with a mob of kids dancing. You see that? He asked. He said, Yes, what is it? It's a Minnesota's Twins jacket, navy with a red and white lettering. In the center was a small dance floor, and whoever took the photo did so with the intent of capturing some friends as they moved to the music. One girl in particular had a very short skirt, and Theo figured that it was the reason for the photo. To the left of the dance floor, almost in the middle of the mob, was the lead singer holding a guitar, mouth open, eyes closed, wailing away, and just beyond him was the point where Theo was pointing. Behind a set of tall speakers, there was a small person who appeared to be watching the crowd. The person was standing sideways, and only the T and W of the words twins were visible across the back of the jacket. The person had short hair and though most of her face was lost in shadows, there was no doubt in Theo's mind. It was April. As of 11:39 p.m., the time of the photo, she was very much alive. Are you sure? Chase asked, leaning closer, their noses almost touching the screen. I gave her that Twins jacket last year after I won it in a contest. It was too small for me. I told the police about it, and they said they never found her. No, they never found it in her house. They assumed she was wearing it when she left. Theo pointed again and said, "Look at the short hair on the profile. Chase, it's gotta be April, don't you agree?" "Maybe, I don't know." "It's her," Theo said. Both boys backed away, and then Theo stood up and walked around the room. Her mother had not been home for 3 straight nights. She was scared to death, so she called her father, or maybe he called her. Anyway, he drove through the night, got home, unlocked the door with his key, got April, and away they went. For the past 4 days, she's been on the road, just hanging out with a band. Shouldn't we call the police? Theo was walking, pacing, thinking, rubbing his chin as he pondered the situation. No, not yet. Maybe later. Let's do this. Since we know where she was last night, let's try and figure out where she'll be tonight. Let's call every fraternity and sorority at UNC, Duke, Wake Forest, and the rest of them until we find out where Plender's playing tonight. UNC is the hot spot, Chase said. There are at least a dozen frat parties. Give me the list. Theo worked on the phone as Chase watched and took notes. At the first frat house, no one answered the phone. The second call was to Kappa Delta sorority house, and the young lady who answered the phone was not sure what the band's name was. The third call went unanswered. At the Delta house, a brother gave the name of another band, and on it went. Theo was growing frustrated again, but at least he was also thrilled to know that April had not been harmed, and he was determined to find her. The eighth call was magic. A student at the Kappa Theta fraternity house said he knew nothing about a band, was late for a football game, but to hang on for a minute. He returned the phone and he said, "Yep, it's a band called Plunder." "What time do you think they'll start playing?" Theo asked. "Whenever, usually around 9. Gotta run, pal." The pretzels were gone. The truth was that Theo had no idea what to do. Chase felt strongly that they should call the police, but Theo wasn't so sure. 2 things were certain, at least to Theo. 1, the girl on the photo was April. 2, she was with the band, and the band would be playing at the Kappa Theta house in Chapel Hill, North Carolina that night. Instead of calling the police, Theo called Ike. 20 minutes later, Theo, Chase, and Judge ran up the stairs to Ike's office. He had been eating lunch in a Greek deli downstairs when Theo called. He and Chase introduced themselves as Theo found a photo of April on Ike's desktop computer. "That's her," Theo declared. Ike studied the photo carefully, his reading glasses perched on the tip of his nose. "Are you sure?" Theo gave the history of the jacket. He described her height, hairstyle, and hair color and pointed to the profile of her nose and chin. "That's April," he said. "If you say so. She's with her father, just like you said, Ike. Jack Lieber had nothing to do with her disappearance. The police have been chasing the wrong man." Ike nodded and smiled, but was not the least bit smug. He continued to stare at his computer screen. "Chase thinks we should notify the police," Theo said. "I sure do," Chase said. "Why not?" "Let me think about it," Ike said as he pushed back his chair and jumped to his feet. He turned on his stare and walked around the office. Finally he said, "I don't like the idea of notifying the police, at least not right now. Here's what might happen. The police here would call the police in Chapel Hill, and we're not sure what they would do down there. They would probably go to the party and try to find April. This might be more difficult than you think. Let's assume it's a larger party, lots of students celebrating and drinking and other stuff, and anything might happen when the police show up. The police might be smart, maybe they're not. Maybe they have no interest in the girl who's just hanging around while her father plays in a band. Maybe the girl doesn't want to be rescued by the police. A lot of things might happen, and most of them not good. There's no warrant out for the arrest of her father because the police here haven't charged him with anything. He's not a suspect yet." Ike paced along behind his desk as the boys watched every move and hung on every word. "And without a positive identification, I'm not sure the police here would do anything in the first place." He fell into this chair and stared at the photo. He frowned, pinched his nose, and rubbed his whiskers. I know it's her, Theo said. But what if it isn't Theo? Ike said gravely. There's more than one twins jacket in the world. You can't see her eyes. You know it's April because you really want it to be April. You're desperate for it to be April, but what if you're wrong? Let's say we go to the police right now and they get excited and call their buddies down Chapel Hill, who also get excited, and tonight they go to a party and A, can't find the girl, or B, find the girl and it's not April. We'd look pretty stupid, wouldn't we? There was a long, heavy pause as the boys considered how stupid they would look if they were wrong. Finally, Chase spoke. Why don't we tell her mother? I'll bet Sue could identify her own daughter. Then it's out of our hands. I don't think so, Ike said. That woman's crazy, and she might do anything. And it's not in April's best interest to have her mother involved at this point. From what I hear, she's driving the police crazy, and they're trying to avoid her. Another long pause as all three looked at the walls. Theo said, So what do we do, Ike? The smartest thing to do is to get the girl and bring her back, then call the police. And it has to be done by someone she trusts. Someone like you, Theo. Theo's jaw dropped. His mouth flew open, but no words came out. That's a long bike ride, Chase said. Tell your parents, Theo, and get them to drive you down there. You have to confront April, make sure she's okay, and bring her back. Immediately. There's no time to waste. My parents aren't here, Ike. They're in Briar Springs for the state bar convention and won't be back until tomorrow. I'm staying with Chase tonight. Ike looked at Chase and asked, Could your parents make the trip? Chase was already shaking his head. No, I don't think so. I can't see them getting involved in something like this. Besides, they're having dinner with some friends tonight, and it's a big deal. Theo looked at his uncle and saw in his eyes the unmistakable twinkle of a kid ready for an adventure. Looks like you're the man, Ike, Theo said. And as you say, there's no time to waste. And that's the end of chapter 16.